Welcome back to Travolting. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering In a Valley of Violence. With special guest, Cole Bradley. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Travolting.
Welcome back, folks.
Jeff, you're tan.
What?
Folks at home, we have already recorded a podcast. This is our second recording today, and I'm just now noticing Jeff has got a tan. You got a tan.
Thank you for noticing. No, it was
it's your neckline. I'm seeing.
It's not a tan. It's a burn that healed.
Yeah. Can you lift up your sleeve? Oh
There.
no, your arms did not tan really at all.
No, it's
your
all
neck.
It was all me
all neck.
on Thursday when we were doing the thing that you and I were doing.
Yeah. What thing were you and I doing?
We were filming a car crash of some sort.
Beach. We were on the beach.
Fun.
On the beach, making love.
But no.
Because Jeff and I are in
But
a
no.
couple.
You know who else is tan? Ethan Hawke in this movie.
Ethan Hawke is tan.
Ethan Hawke is very tan in this movie.
Very tan.
Ethan Hawke is looking good in this movie.
Oh, hello, Cole. Hi.
Oh, yes.
Hi.
Hello, welcome back to Cole Bradley, coming back from the Taking of Pelham 123.
Thank you very much.
As of now, the current record holder for our longest episode.
Yes, with a record of it's 2 hours and 30 something minutes.
The real question today: can he James Cameron himself? Can he beat his own record?
No.
Well, I don't think I can because no movie is as good as The Taking of Pelham 123.
It's very hard.
And no movie is as full worth of discussion as The Taking of Pelham 123.
Yeah, that was 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Yes.
I don't think I don't think this will be that.
I mean-
Also, to be fair, 45 minutes of that was us talking about public transit in a different city.
We did talk about the CTA for like 20 to 30 minutes.
That's true. We did.
This week are we going to discuss various thoroughbred horses? Because that's transit of the time.
I don't know.
Do you want me to call my mom? She does know about horses.
We can get her on the show.
My mother is an ex-rancher.
I do want to discuss the sociocultural impact of priests going around to Western towns and how that was handled.
Yes, and how it's the stereotypical drunk Irish priest.
Yeah. Just gets beat the shit out of him this entire movie.
Poor Burn Gorman.
Poor Burn Gorman.
Dude has a face that,
Only
well,
a mother could love.
I don't even know if his, like, poor guy.
I mean, no offense to Burn Gorman, an actor I quite like. He does look like someone tried to clone Crispin Glover and gave up like 70% of the way through. Yeah.
A failed attempt.
Yeah. But today we are covering
In a Valley of Violence.
a Western directed by
T. West.
T. West, who is known for...
Well, he most recently just had X come out.
It is Ty, by the way.
Ty, is it Ty? Okay.
It's Ty West, I believe.
I made a judgment call right then and there. I was like, I'm gonna 50-50 shot. I went with T.
But
It's
this
Ty.
this was Blumhouse. This is a Blumhouse
Yes.
Western.
Yes,
And
this is.
they were coming off of I'm going to do a little context corner if you don't mind, Jeff.
You're coming off a context corner.
Just
I mean,
'cause-
I have a little Bloomhouse context here too. But
Yes. Let's go
please.
through the circle of Blumhouse context.
Well, so this movie comes off. So this was filmed Blumhouse Productions, but what the sort of the conception of this movie, as is told in the IMDb trivia section, the most fortified facts
realistic
in the world, is during the filming of The Purge, one of my favorite movies of all time. No, it's not. But anyway, it could have been good. Could have been good. Decent premise. Anyway, Ethan Hawke and Jason Blum were talking about that Blumhouse should do a Western, and there birthed the idea of In a Valley of Violence. So Ty West, who I think at the time was mostly known for horror movies.
He had done The House of the Devil, The Sacrament. Those are his two big ones, but he also did The Innkeepers and Cabin Fever 2, which has the great subtitles.
Cabin Fever 2 is a weird, like, he takes his name off it. Studio interference, Michigas deal.
Gotcha.
That one doesn't really count.
Right. And so there's ABCs of Death, VHS, all that stuff, but mostly known for horror stuff. So this is Ty West, just looking at it, really his first run in a Western.
Or just something that's not, but you can see the influence watching this movie that his Western background does bring into it.
You mean his horror background?
It's a horror background, my apologies.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's interesting about this movie, and we'll get into it, is it's like 20% a slasher film.
Yes.
Is kind of the interesting turn it takes.
And I would say the problem is that I don't feel like it goes far enough in that direction.
I would agree.
Yes. It doesn't go far enough in the direction or just pull back from that far enough. Like it doesn't pick a lane. And we'll get to that when we get into the plot.
And the main character of this Ethan Hawke, which, I mean, is there context for Ethan Hawke at this point in time of his life? I mean, Ethan Hawke,
he's in direct-to-video, like, you know, I don't want to say direct-to-video jail, but this is like that weird stretch of his career where post Sinister he kind of just starts doing a lot of schlocky genre stuff that doesn't really land.
Ethan just has such a strange career. I want to dive into that because, like, any interview you read with him, he has a very specific, like, personality. He's always very much like talking about, he's like, you know, I'm just in it for the art. I'm here for the creative juices to get them flowing. And he's always like, you know, I'm not here for the paycheck or for these like action movies. We're not. And then like he always, every like 5 years, he finds himself in these
in some sort of like big franchisee type role.
He's doing a fucking Disney Plus TV show right now.
2 years after saying I would never do a Marvel thing, he's in a Disney Plus TV show right now.
A Disney Plus, Marvel show.
Has anyone been watching Moon Knight?
No.
In this group? Yes. He's good in it, but it's funny because like his whole conceit in the show is that and this was apparently an Ethan Hawke idea, is that in his slippers he wears glass shards, so every step that he takes he's like in pain as like punishment for his sins. So the whole show is just Ethan Hawke like slowly hobbling around like a penguin, walking up to people.
I mean, just to discuss the highs and lows of Ethan Hawke as a weird actor, can I just run through everything he's done since First Reformed?
Yes.
The movie that almost got him his 5th Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. He played Pat Garrett in Billy the Kid biopic that Vincent D'Onofrio wrote and directed. Then he's in a really good, one of the rare cases of Blumhouse trying to be like a drama studio. Mm. He's in this really, really wonderful like indie drama called Adopt a Highway that Logan Marshall
Green. Oh, this is directed by Logan Marshall. Yeah,
yeah, that movie's great.
All right, this is going on the list right now.
Yeah, then he's in a Koreeda film. He's in the movie that Hirokazu Koreeda does with Catherine Deneuve and Juliette Binoche in Paris.
Yes.
Then he's in a very strange Nikola Tesla biopic.
Yes.
Then he's in a movie that the RZA directed that is unwatchable. And I think the RZA is kind of a good director, but Cutthroat City is terrible. Then he's in a batshit crazy Abel Ferrara film,
which has cameos
in an Antoine Fuqua film, then does another Blumhouse horror movie, and then just had The Northman come out.
And then he's in Knives Out too.
It's a very like, you know, not to draw like a hard line between, you know, the junkier stuff and the artistic stuff, because certainly some of those movies are bad. Yes. Some of the auteur stuff he makes is bad and some of the junk he makes is good, but it is a really weird ping-ponging between like, I will be in the guilty so I can run off to Rome and make this like skull fried COVID thriller with Abel Ferrara that is completely incomprehensible. I don't know if either of you two saw Zeros and Ones.
I have not, but I've heard everything I've heard about Zeros and Ones.
That movie looks like a rotten egg. And I mean that as a compliment. That movie looks like it's decaying in front of your very eyes.
What is the plot of Zeros and Ones?
I don't know.
Yeah, and you've seen this movie.
He plays a fucking like government agent who's hunting a terrorist who's his own brother. That movie is just paranoid incomprehensibility. It's good. It's really good. It's really good.
It's funny because, like you said, First Reformed is the movie that almost gets him another acting nom, and then you would expect like the choices he makes afterwards or the things he get offered are not what you would expect coming off of that movie.
Yeah,
and now he's in a Disney Plus TV show, and that's not like necessarily a huge insult, but it is still like a very strange place for Ethan Hawke to wind up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this just out loud, but like I don't think he's a bad actor.
Oh no,
Ethan Hawke is not a bad actor. I think the choices of the projects he makes are questionable, as we've discussed. But I don't think in the
I would like to Stuart, turn around right now.
What?
You're getting the dirtiest look ever from across the kitchen.
Damn, Becca, come on.
Does Becca hate Ethan Hawke?
No, she loves Ethan.
No, she loves Ethan Hawke. But
she adores Ethan.
But I think to that credit, like I don't think he's a bad actor. I think he's made some questionable career choices, as we've discussed. But Cole's got some words.
I think he needs to be cast well.
Yeah.
And like this is on my mind because I just watched In a Valley of Violence, which, you know, is a Western. It's set vaguely shortly after the end of the Civil War.
Yes.
And I also just saw The Northman.
Yes.
And I had the same thought in both those movies, which is that Ethan Hawke has a face that knows what a latte is. I don't buy him as a cowboy. Ethan Hawke is not a cowboy. Ethan Hawke is not a Viking king.
After you say that, I think that really just makes a lot of sense.
That takes the
Ethan
cake
Hawke
for me.
can play shitty ex-boyfriends.
He can play
and
a
things
priest
that are within 2 degrees of separation from a shitty ex-boyfriend. He's very good at doing that one thing.
He's good at shitty ex-boyfriend. He's good at, and then the next level is shitty dad.
Shitty dad.
Which is it's the same beast.
Yeah. Which is why the first Purge kind of works, because he's just playing a shitty dad in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. A face that knows what a latte is. That I think we gotta ping that one.
Yeah, he was
good in Valerian too.
I mean, that's because they know what space lattes are.
He also I forgot. This isn't even the only Western he makes in 2016.
Magnificent
He's in
Seven.
Magnificent Seven.
He's in the Magnificent Seven,
which
a
I
movie
guess
that no one has seen.
Which I guess, like, what did Magnificent Seven come out before, but filmed after, or did it come after and filmed before? There was some weird like thing where it's like he did in Valley of Violence, that did Magnificent Seven. But Magnificent Seven came out first, then into Valley of Violence, or am I having that backwards? Something like that.
I don't know when they shot, but they came out a month apart.
Yeah.
But the Magnificent Seven, gets a wide release, and this does not, because it's the thing I wanted to say about Blumhouse is that this is the real dead zone for Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Paranormal Activity ends, which is really the machine that is fueling Blumhouse.
Right.
Is that they've got this franchise that's like a guaranteed money maker. They've kind of worked out a system of pumping out profit by making movies very cheaply that are very scary. But they've kind of run Paranormal and Insidious into the ground.
Yes.
They've also just gotten an Oscar nomination because Blumhouse makes Whiplash. So theoretically, you'd think they're in a position where they kind of need to evolve.
Yes.
And instead, they just spend 3 years pumping out movies that nobody sees except for the Purge sequels.
Because they're trying...
Which are not Paranormal Activity level things. I like some of these movies. Ouija 2 is a masterpiece. But they're basically just in like a 2-year window of treading water until they stumble into making Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're back in the game.
It's because like they try and break away from like their bread and butter. Whiplash like almost fell into their laps as like it kind of just works for them. And then Get Out only brings them back because they're like, oh, we're making a horror movie. And Jordan Peele.
To be fair,
yes.
They also have Split right before Get Out. Like they really do stumble and fall into like these two auteur-driven like mega hits.
Yeah. And it kind of comes out of them just being like, oh, look, M. Night wants to make a horror movie, or Jordan Peele wants to make a horror movie. Horror movies work for us. Let's make these things happen. And so they make them happen, and they turn into great movies. It
does. Both those do kind of feel accidental.
Yes.
Like,
I would say especially Split too, because Split, I feel like Shyamalan putting your eggs into that basket, and that movie almost on paper had no right to be as good as it was. But I think that movie was very performance driven, and hence being like the success that it was. And
to Blumhouse,
if you look at like I feel like the only real like artist that they're developing during this like wasteland period is Mike Flanagan.
Yes.
And Mike Flanagan does go on to like become a zeitgeisty filmmaker when he switches studios and goes to Netflix and starts working in miniseries.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a quirk of fate where Mike Flanagan hits when he's under Blumhouse. It's not anything that Jason Blum is necessarily doing.
Yeah.
For all that he's kind of like, held up as this like genius producer, he is really a throw shit at the wall, see what sticks.
And he just throws
reap the benefits and get the Oscar nomination.
And the fact that it's cheap, he throws a lot of shit at the wall.
Lot of shit.
And just by the nature of having a target and throwing a lot of shit, some of it hits.
Yeah. So,
because like Mike Flanagan, like to just quickly wrap him up, before we dive back into Ty West, is like him getting put on a Ouija sequel. It's not what you would inherently think of as like, a great moment for him to break out. It's the fact that he makes a good movie out of a Ouija sequel.
Yeah.
That they're like,
it's also that they like, to their credit, that they get out of his way.
Yeah, and let him do it.
And let him just make a Mike Flanagan movie. Because Ouija 2 is very much a Mike Flanagan Mike Flanagan movie. It is about sad parents who are bad at raising their kids and sad kids who are disconnected from their parents.
And use a Ouija board.
Well, has anyone been keeping up with his like Netflix miniseries with Hill House?
My entire family has.
Well,
those shows are hits.
I would say like Hill House was the peak. Blind Manor.
No.
Do not. No.
If Midnight Mass was a movie, it would have been my favorite movie of last year. But it's not a movie. Midnight Mass is the best Stephen King adaptation. That is not a Stephen King book.
I still see people being horny on the internet for Hamish Linklater's character in Midnight Mass. I have not seen Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass is so good.
I didn't think it was better than Hill House, though.
Here's the thing. You're wrong.
Anyway. No, I don't think I am wrong about this one, though, Jeff.
Isn't Midnight Mass just Salem's Lot?
Basically.
It's basically Salem's Lot, but what if all the characters were even more sad?
Love it.
It's like Salem.
I like his Kings. I would love to see Flanagan make another King. I'm the Dr. Sleep defender.
Dr. Sleep is great.
Dr. Sleep's a fucking masterpiece. Okay. Dr. Sleep is maybe better than The Shining.
I'm staying out of this conversation.
I would almost say it's as good as The
Shining. I am muting my mic and that was me leaving this conversation.
All right, Jeff. Now that Stuart's gone, what do you want to talk about?
All right. So Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot. No, good book.
But no, Midnight. What I am looking at. What is like the main character's girlfriend's name in Salem's Lot? What is?
Oh, I haven't read Salem's Lot in like 5 years.
It's okay. Susan. Her name's Midnight Mass is Salem's Lot. But what if halfway through Susan just became the main character and didn't wander into a vampire's basement?
No, that sounds great. I will probably watch it at some point.
It is well worth a watch. But no.
Anyway, Ty West.
So Ty West.
Are you two at all familiar with Ty West?
I have not seen another Ty West movie. I am aware of him, but I haven't seen X or.
I've seen the ABCs of Death, and I've seen VHS, but I didn't see them for the Ty West aspect of it. I watched
his ABCs of Death short rules, because for the reference, if people haven't seen it, ABCs of Death is an anthology horror film. It is literally 26 shorts. It is very long. It is very exhausting. The production.
I would say they're all ways to die, starting with the letter. So
they're all really brutal horror shorts. But the production of that movie was literally, they gave every filmmaker, I think, $5,000, $10,000, and were like, you can spend more if you want, but just do whatever.
Yeah.
And Ty West short is literally 2 shots, 1 actor, all natural light, 90 seconds long, 1 joke. It's clear he just pocketed the money and laughed all the way to the bank.
Well, like, which one did Ty West do?
He did the one that is just, it is a woman plunging an unclogged toilet, and then she flushes and she walks away from the toilet, and we see remnants of blood in the toilet. And it's like, oh, she miscarried into the toilet. And this is her just finishing up the job.
It's
a cute joke.
Is it the ABCs of Death is the one where like the boy opens a box and sees something and he stops eating? Was that also in ABCs of Death, or is that a different one?
So
that might be in a different horror anthology, but that one freaked me out.
The ABCs of Death is mostly gross.
Yeah, it's not scary. It's not
very
scary.
unpleasant.
It's just gory.
Unpleasant to watch.
It's very like torture porn Saw-esque thing. It's not made for like horror stuff. So I think that box one is not accurate then, because that one was more horror aspect. Yeah. All right, let's talk about In a Valley of Violence.
Yeah. But Ty West as a filmmaker is like the slowcore horror guy. Because like his movies are mostly about nothing happening for long stretches of a time.
He kind of comes out of the Swanberg world, right?
He's Swanberg adjacent. He starts way earlier. Like he starts earlier than people think he does. His first few movies aren't very good. House of the Devil's a masterpiece. House of the Devil is extraordinary. It's incredibly scary. It's beautiful. Greta Gerwig's in it. It rules.
I think if we're talking about where he comes from, like saying the words Greta Gerwig, isn't it kind of explains where he's coming from?
It is on that same scene. He's in You're Next with Joe Swanberg. But his thing really is nothing happens, and then everything happens really quickly
at the end.
Like real slow burn character studies erupting into psychotic violence and gore. Which is why it's very fitting that The Sacrament is basically just Jonestown. Set in the modern day. Like that's kind of the flow he likes, which should really work for a spaghetti western pastiche.
Yes.
Because that's how spaghetti westerns are.
And then
they're all low rolling buildup.
And then the problem with this is there is no character to study. Yeah.
So I picked this movie because I like Ty West, but also because I remember really liking it when it came out.
Yes.
I rewatched it this morning, and it
does not hold up.
I don't think there's anything there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry I don't have a hotter take.
No,
coming in, but I think this movie's kind of a nothing burger.
I do say that, like, I appreciated John Travolta's use in this movie.
This is, I think, the best use we've had of Travolta since 2010, maybe.
I think Travolta's incredible.
He's very good.
I agree.
I think it's a great performance.
I think so too. Like, and so next week we're going to talk about
I Am Wrath.
I Am Wrath. Now I'd already watched that movie, but we haven't recorded the episode yet. But something that is very similar. So in I Am Wrath, Christopher Maloney, Detective Elliot Stabler himself. Yeah, right. That's what I'm talking about.
I have never seen an episode of SVU.
Neither has Jeff, but I know you probably still like Christopher Maloney.
I just love Christopher Maloney. He's one of my favorite characters.
He's like Jeff. I gotta know. Like he plays the general in Man of Steel, and he may only have like 5 minutes of screen time, but Daddy got a rod. Anyway, so like in I Am Wrath, I feel like Christopher Maloney and John Travolta, if you just switched their placement of characters, where Christopher Maloney was the main character and John Travolta comes in as like the last minute special ops buddy, then that movie works a little bit better. And that's what I think In a Valley of Violence does correctly, where John Travolta is not the hero cowboy and Ethan Hawke is the corrupt marshal. They switch it, and it's actually John Travolta gets 20 minutes of screen time. In this whole movie?
We kind of throw Ethan Hawke to the wolves, but we give Travolta the correct role.
Yes.
Well, I think that the more interesting thing about this movie is that it's not that switch. It's that Travolta is not really the antagonist of this movie.
No, he's not.
That Ranson is the antagonist of this movie, which is, so I'm not very well versed in the Red Box era of John Travolta.
Well, you're talking to the right two guys.
I know. That's what my understanding, though, is that he's not a Bruce Willis type, where he's first billed and all over the poster, but he's only in the movie for 5 minutes. Like, my understanding is that if you
he's
watch,
in these movies,
he's actually the lead of these movies usually.
It's a mix, because we did just cover a movie called Criminal Activities, and that's a movie where the protagonist is played by Michael Pitt. And Dan Stevens is like a shared protagonist, but mostly Michael Pitt.
I have some good Michael Pitt gossip that I'll share off mic, by the way.
Okay,
I'll take it.
But John Travolta is front and center of the poster, billed. I don't know if he's top billed.
It's like one of those things where it's the 3 billings, and he's like
in the center.
Yeah, but he's like, not.
And John Travolta isn't really the antagonist or protagonist of that movie either. He's almost very similar to this Marshall character, only he plays a different role. He's like a mob boss who comes in. He's a catalyst. He's like pretty much part of the inciting incident, or I don't know, what would you call it? Like,
Travolta's whole role in that movie is for the twist ending, for him to just at the end be he's the mob boss.
He's the mob boss. Yeah, but he's not the antagonist. He's not the protagonist. He's not like a super key essential part of the movie. He's just kind of there. And I feel like that is a movie where, like, you pay him $1 million a day for 3 days, you film all of his scenes, and he's done, much like a Bruce Willis-esque performance. But then we get movies like this,
because
Wrath.
If we run his run since Taking of Pelham, essentially, because that's like the last real movie he does, or Savages. Questionable, but it's like From Paris with Love.
Is Savages a real movie?
Savages is questionable.
It's questionable. From Paris with Love, he's split billed, like he's passing off to the new era of action stars
in Savages,
and Jonathan Rhys Meyers, who is like a plank of wood. So From Paris with Love, like he's in that movie. Savages, he is a key supporting character, but he's present throughout. Killing Season, he's in it. He's like front and center.
He's front and center with
as
De Niro.
the heavy. He's the heavy in that one. Yeah. In a movie which like stars 2 people and an elk.
Yeah. And then we get The Forger.
The Forger, which he's in.
He's the protagonist.
Life on the Line.
Protagonist.
He's in. Criminal Activities. He's there as a favor to Jackie Earle.
Yeah. Earl Haley.
In a Valley of Violence, he's supporting, and it feels like the first time we've seen a correct use of him as supporting.
Yes, I would agree.
I do like him in Savages. I will slightly retract this.
Yeah,
that's a good use of him.
Yeah. We've established that in our Savages episode, that he is actually used very well in Savages.
Anytime he's willing to not be the lead or the big bad guy, and just kind of lets himself plug in as a character role, it works.
Yeah.
Can I just make a slight objection?
Yes.
Sure.
No one is used well in Savages.
Travolta's kind of used well in Savages.
No. I think there's a point to be made that Travolta's
Stuart.
the only thing that's used well in Savages.
No.
Hey, Stuart.
I really do. What?
He gave me orgasms.
Orgasms.
I give him orgasms.
The only person who even remotely exits Savages with like a shred of dignity is Blake. I'm sorry, it's true.
Did she walk away
with a shred? A shred. It's just because she's Blake Lively,
and it works.
I don't know. I hold personally. I think John Travolta was actually kind of used well in Savages.
Cole, when was the last time you saw Savages?
Oh God, years ago.
Because like he's essentially like in that movie just playing the shitty FBI guy from Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
He spends the whole movie just popping up in the scenes and being like, "What's going on? Why don't you guys just leave me alone? We'll make good money on this hustle."
Yeah. So, but one key differentiation I do want to say from Bruce Willis and John Travolta throughout this period is I never feel like Travolta is not trying.
He is always trying, and his tries are miscalculated most of the time.
Yeah.
He miscalculates what the audience wants from him, and he's miscalculating what he can best deliver.
Right.
Which is,
I think this is a really good calculation because he's playing this sheriff as like kind of such an ineffectual loser in a way that it is very like nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
Especially compared to what James Ranson's doing in this movie. Like Travolta's kind of just playing a sad sack who maybe at one point mattered, but now kind of just sits back and lets everyone run ramshot all over him, which is such a weird thing for him to be doing at this point of his career.
But it's absolutely the correct. I
think so. Yeah.
It is the most interesting thing about this movie, I think. Because you see the archetype of like lone drifter rides into town, the sheriff is up to some business and they butt heads. Like you see that all the time, but you never see it as like the sheriff is just a loser.
Yeah. And it feels reflective of where Travolta's at right now.
Yeah.
Going into it, because like his character in this movie, as Cole was saying, like he's a loser. He like used to be something, and now he's coming to town and still acting like he's a big shot. But no one cares, and it ends with him being shot to death between two people who matter.
But he's also not the one calling the shots in the town.
And he keeps trying to, and no one listens to him.
Yeah.
Half this movie is Travolta telling people to do things and them not doing them.
Right.
Which I think we run into some problems at the end where it goes a little too long. But
I love the voice he's doing too.
Yes.
Like I think he's leaning into the fact that he has like kind of a squeal naturally, but he also has like a half slur that like reads almost like this guy's been hit in the head too many times and he can't fully get words out. Combined with the fact that he's missing the leg.
Yeah.
His hair is like completely fried.
He's literally falling apart.
He looks like a ghost of a movie star.
This may be one of the only movies where I think the wig does kind of work for him a little bit.
It's a good wig.
It's a good wig.
It's a really good wig.
It's a good wig in the sense that it's a bad, like it's supposed to look like bad hair.
Yeah.
And he also wears a hat in this movie most of the time as well. I mean, there's always, you got to add that to the context too. But I do think, with that fried look, it does kind of pull off a little bit in this. So I don't know if that's the trigger warning to go to the hair ranking right away.
I think we have to.
Yeah,
I think we have to.
Yeah.
All right, cue the hair ranking music. All right, welcome to Denton, the home of the hair ranking Western hair. So, like, once upon a time in urban cowboy land, we ranked John Travolta's hair, and it was hard because he is always wearing a hat, and the hat, I feel like, blocks a lot of the hair that we see. Now, that being said, like, he's got good facial hair features that I feel like should be accessorize the hair very well. I feel like story-wise, it also progresses the hair in a nice way. The hair is like, it's floofed out just a little bit, and it's got strands of gray and white. Like, I really do feel like this, like, as you were saying before, Cole, like this, it's supposed to show that he was once a big shot and no longer is, but still puts on the image that he's still a big shot. So with all those elements combined, and again, the cowboy hat's probably going to take the points down by like just a notch, but just a notch. Not too much, but just a notch.
I think an advantage to this wig is that we don't see the hairline.
Yeah,
because we run into a problem where it's a straight line in a lot of these movies where it gets really sketchy.
I just don't know what these hair artists are doing.
Can I just throw in a subtle thing I really like about the design here?
Yeah.
He's rocking the, like, I think kind of traditional Western idea of like the sideburns and the goatee. But he's let his beard grow out so much, his goatee grow out to this like scraggly, like misshapen mess, that it's kind of weird that he's not just connecting into a full beard.
It's like half there.
Yeah,
like almost like he literally can't like grow into a full beard, which I think is just, especially compared to how mannered Ransom's like mustache and goatee is. It just really like emphasizes the way that this guy has gone to sea, and isn't a gunslinger.
So I have a spot for him, and it's gonna go fairly high up on the list.
Ooh,
I think I want to put him above Lonely Hearts, below Mad City.
Above Lonely Hearts, below Mad City.
Yeah, if the hat came off 2 more times in the movie. Like if there were 2 more scenes where he took the hat off, I would put it above Mad City.
I will say that both Mad City and Lonely Hearts, he has the same hairstyle in. So roughly, like you're just saying, it's like equivalent to that.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Because that's the period where he has his look, and he sticks with it for like 7 straight movies.
Well, Mad City, he has a little bit of a more bush tail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where he takes all the kids hostage and then realizes he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. Good movie, Mad City.
Mad Shitty as a... what's his name said?
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman said mad shitty. Okay.
Still better than this movie.
Still better?
I think Mad City's better than this movie.
I'd say roughly about the same. I like this movie about as much as Mad City. They're both movies where nothing happens, but they both have redeemable qualities. This one being that I think Travolta's rather well used for the first time in a few years.
I mean, Travolta's used really well in Mad City.
I keep on saying Mad Shitty after I made that joke. Mad City works because it's like, what if Dog Day Afternoon, but like low quality? What if what if direct-to-video version of Dog Day Afternoon?
I think I may have even said it on the episode itself that I actually do like John Travolta's performance in that movie.
He's good.
Folks can go back to that episode and call me out on it if I am contradicting myself, but I believe I mentioned that I know I'm looking at you, Cole, because I know Cole will do it.
Cole did actually have an audio file queued up from our Mad City episode.
That's true.
For our last
it didn't
make the cut, but
yeah, I was not caught with my pants down, Cole. I'm better than that.
You got close.
Got close.
He was ready to launch.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to speed through the plot just so we can talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, like it's a fairly straightforward plot, so I don't think it's going to take us long to.
No, because here's my plot. Here's my plot example. Insert any Western revenge story here.
Yes.
Doom. All right, plot's over.
Well,
great.
but not just any Western revenge story. There's the other thing we haven't talked about this movie.
Is it the Farmiga
This movie
of it
is
all?
very clearly Jason Blum being mad that he didn't get John Wick. This is such a blatant Wick knockoff.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
Down to, I'm sorry, as much as we like Travolta, the exact same dynamic as John Wick, where the crime boss father is mostly just an affable loser who has a nightmare son who's actually the real like menace.
To the point where almost the dialogue is verbatim the same, where the crime boss in John Wick's like, he killed a man with a fucking pencil, versus John Travolta being like, you were once a Civil War soldier who killed a bunch of Native Americans or whatever. Like, it's the same sort of comparison of like that both John Travolta and the crime boss in John Wick know the protagonists that they're dealing with and are warning their sons of the consequences of messing with such character.
But I think the real distinction between the two, and I think the real reason I think this movie doesn't work, is that, like, I mean, the thing that's great about John Wick is that it takes place in such this beautiful, imaginative, strange world.
Yes.
Where the thriller aspects are just really an excuse to delve into this borderline science fiction, alternate
world.
Yes.
Universe of obscure politics and rules and iconography and fashion. And this movie, what is this fucking town? And the fucking
we gotta talk about this.
Denton.
There are, at the end of this movie, when like it's trying to do this dramatic, like, our hero walks off into the sunset and we pan over all like the destruction. that's been left kind of like the high noon ending. All of a sudden, we see all these people like rushing out of the buildings.
It's like, where were they before?
Where the fuck were they? I swear to God, you see 7 people in this movie.
Yes.
Not counting Ethan Hawke.
Okay. So when I was watching this movie, I kept being like, this is like 4 square blocks of Western town.
When it's the same Western set.
Wait, no, don't say it. I'm getting to it.
Oh shit.
So like this whole movie, I'm like, this is like so strange. What is happening here? It's just like 4 blocks and nothing. And the movie I kept thinking of was Thor, where like it's like the 4 or 6 square blocks.
Yeah.
And then I fucking look, it's the same town. It's the same fucking set.
But like, Ethan Hawke rides into this town, and I get that it's supposed to be a ghost town.
Yeah.
And I get that there's like lines of dialogue that say that like everyone's up and left, and this is just who's remaining.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, we see a barkeep, a guy running a general store
with no customers,
2 women who run a hotel, a sheriff, the sheriff's son, and 3 flunkies. And that is all the people we see living in this town until a bunch of extras show up for the last shot.
You don't even see horses.
Yeah, we see so many horses, but like,
no, I'm saying like there are no horses in this town.
There's isn't there that one shot? I barely can even remember the shot, but there's like the barn full of horses at the one point, right?
At the very end,
it just had
at
one
the very
horse.
end.
Did he just have Ethan Hawke's
presumably
horse?
they put all the horses in the barn and then forgot about them, and everyone left the town.
I remember there being it's such a muddy shot. This movie does not look good either, which is the problem.
Yeah,
it's got a nice fluidity to it, but like, I can't buy this movie seriously because this feels like such like a sketch of a Western where there's no. Why is anyone living in this place?
Yes.
Like what is the dynamics that are ostensibly the thrust of like the spaghetti Western is this idea of the outsider disrupting
the community,
a community, even if it's a bad community,
but there's no community here.
There is no community here.
And like they keep being like, it's the Valley of Violence. This town's run by sinners. And you get there and it's like, yeah, there's like a shitty sheriff.
It's run by 4 sinners.
It's like there's a shitty sheriff, but the marshal seems pretty okay. I don't know what else is going on here.
Yeah. I mean, we get that one quick. Oh shit, you froze.
Oh
no,
sorry. I think we talked over each other.
Yeah, go again, Cole. You froze over a little bit.
I was just gonna say we don't even get the sense that like James Ranson's reign of terror is affecting anybody else.
Yeah.
Because the only person we see outside of his inner circle is Taissa Farmiga's character, and he barely interacts with her.
Mm-hmm.
So the like there's a potential for juice vis-a-vis. Yes, it's a revenge story, but also Ethan Hawke is, achieving some sort of justice. And there's also a potential for juice for it's just a revenge story. Ethan Hawke does not even care about the fact that he's impacting this broader society for good or for ill. But when you're left with this, like, only the characters who have speaking parts get to exist within the diegesis of the frame, then it just doesn't feel like it ever matters.
Yes. Because, like, when James Ranson's introduces, like you said, the reign of terror that he has in this town. And in the movie, the worst thing you see him do prior to, like, getting punched by Ethan Hawke is he, like, insults a traveling salesman. He doesn't even, like, hurt the guy or steal any of his stuff. He just says, your guns are trash. Get out of my town. And the guy leaves.
So I did this completely by accident. I realized this morning that I probably fucked up and should not have done this. But last night I watched The Quick and the Dead.
I am very sorry.
Which is also like a revisionist spaghetti Western. And that is just a movie that is so full of life and energy and really has that like almost John Wick juice of like you're peering into this strange, bizarre world.
Yeah.
That I come here and I watch this and I'm just left with nothing but some character actors I mostly like.
Yeah.
Not having anyone to bounce off of.
Because I
what
think,
do you guys?
Oh, keep going.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's a good segue into like what the very beginning of this movie is like where Ethan Hawke's just like a drifter and he's traveling around. He runs into Burn Gorman playing a traveling priest. And Gorman's whole bit is like, I'm trying to make it to this town because I'm going to bring salvation to it. Because it's a town full of sinners. And he goes on about how terrible this town is and how it needs a redeemer to come and save it. And what the movie, I suppose, is trying to do is like change that character from Gorman to Hawke as like the redeemer. And then it kind of just says that and never does anything with it.
Right. No.
Yeah, no, I think, and it also like brings up this idea that like maybe Burn Gorman's character is just a grifter.
Yeah.
But it just says that. Now I will say, beautiful zoom.
Yes, at the
Burn
very
Gorman.
beginning.
Yeah.
And I do think, even though I think this movie kind of looks muddy and all the colors are kind of bland and washed out and the environments are kind of boring, like Ty West does bring his like very textbook gliding camera, floating through spaces in a way that I think looks really nice and blends with the action really nice. Like he understands how to juxtapose motion of on-screen bodies and motion of camera.
The camera's doing a lot of really nice work in this. The lighting and post work is not.
It looks so ugly.
Like at the beginning, I was like, "Is it trying to like capture the look of like an old camera, like when you saw those like Civil War old photos?" And then I was just like, "No, that this is not an attempt to do that. This just looks like, dirt. It looks like dirt."
Yeah.
I don't mean that like I mean that in the insult, but also it physically looks. Every frame looks like there is a veil of dirt in front of the camera.
I mean, this is a work for hire job from a guy who normally develops his own projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can see that in something like, regardless of what people think about X, I think X looks like undeniably beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Just beautiful, like murky blacks and, it just looks really good. I haven't seen it in a while because we recorded so late, but we were supposed to record this like right after X came out.
Yes.
And now we're recording it right after The Northman came out.
So we went from the Ty West context to the Ethan Hawke context.
Yeah.
I will find you Fjolnir, or however you say it. I have not seen The Northman yet, but he will kill Fjolnir, and he will avenge Mjolnir, and he will, I don't know, Markarth, some shit like that. Skyrim, good game.
Skyrim, very good game. Hamlet, good play.
We will leave it at that.
So priest.
Yeah, it's Ethan Hawke is playing Paul. And I think at the beginning they're like, he's Paul, and he's coming across a guy in need of help on a road.
Do they say his name until the end, though? I can't remember.
At the
It's like the middle, because he's about to leave the town.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I meant. Taissa Farmiga asks him his name, and he says Paul.
Which, that's another thing about, we talked about how nothing happens in this movie. The inciting incident really isn't until the midpoint.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, because like when, we'll just jump to the midpoint of the movie. I mean, like, he beats up the priest, not steals, but he gets some of his stuff and then goes in.
He robs him.
Well, like he makes a point of it, right? He's like, you can either have your life or I can take some water and bullets or
yeah,
whatever.
that is a robbery, Stuart. That is the definition of armed robbery.
Stuart's like, I don't know if it's a robbery, but he does take his stuff and hold him at gunpoint.
Okay. But
Which is another thing that like this is maybe keying up a slightly more interesting movie that, he's introduced, sticking up a person who also sucks.
Yeah.
Is there something there? Probably. Does this movie care? No.
You get the vibe from the choices made in this scene and like naming the character Paul, and having him be a traveler to a land of sin. You get the vibe that like what the movie's trying to do is it's like, there's the false priest and then there's the real priest who's just the guy who brings justice to this town. And I'm sure that the guy who wrote the script, Ty West wrote the script. You get the vibe that like at some point he's probably like, oh yeah, this will be a great element in the movie, and then he just kind of like forgets to do much more with that.
Yeah.
Because he robs the priest, Burn Gorman, and then he steals his water and goes into the town of Denton, and shackles up his horse, tries to go into a general store, can't get in, so he goes into a bar, and that's where we're introduced to the Ransone character.
Yeah.
Where do you guys fall on James Ransone?
I think he can be very good.
I generally really like him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him in this.
This does not play to his strengths.
I think this is a very grating performance, and I think he's mostly just doing Ziggy Sabatka with all the edges sanded off.
Oh, he's Eddie Kazbrak in It Chapter 2.
Yes, I think
Yes,
he is excellent in It Chapter 2.
He's the pimp in Tangerine.
He's literally Officer So-and-so in Sinister.
He's Officer So-and-so in Sinister, which, again, there's a movie where he and Ethan Hawke have, like, really interesting chemistry that you don't get here at all.
Yeah.
It almost feels like they never met. This movie.
It's the thing is, I don't buy Ransone as a badass, and this movie's not trying to say he is. This movie's trying to be like he's a poser of a badass.
Yeah, but
he feels like the right choice for that kind of performance, but it doesn't work here.
Yeah. And I think it would work better if, like we said, so I'm just going to speed run through the plot.
Yes.
Just so we can get into this point. He rides into town. He gets into it with James Ransone, who's the son of the marshal. Travolta then kind of basically tells him to get the hell out of Dodge rather than escalate. Ransone and his boys come out, find Ethan Hawke,
kill his dog
in the middle of the night, kill Ethan Hawke's dog, think they kill Ethan Hawke because they want revenge for the fact that Ethan Hawke showed up James Ransone. And then Hawke comes back looking for revenge. And that's where this movie seems like it's about to get interesting, because Wes starts shooting the revenge sequences kind of like he's making a slasher.
Yeah. Where you don't see Hawke.
If he really leans into that idea and he doesn't, then James Ransone being this like ineffectual loser and John Travolta being an ineffectual loser is very interesting. But the fact that he starts doing that and then kind of just drifts back into basic, gunfight iconography means that I'm just like, I have a hero I don't really care about.
A villain.
Against bad guys I don't give a shit about.
And the one character I do care about is basically just walking around being like, why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
I assume that's Thaisa.
Travolta.
Oh, Travolta.
Like Travolta, yeah. And when the one character you're compelled by is spending the whole movie being like, this shouldn't be happening. This plot should not be. It's hard to care.
I mean, there's some juice there if you lean into this idea of it being a horror movie.
Yes.
But he's not willing to make that full flip because, again, I think Jason Blum wanted
a Western.
A Western. I wonder if, because I know Blum started this project, but knowing that West wrote it, I wonder if there was a version of this script that was more Ty Westy.
Yes.
Because, again, if you tell me Ty West makes a spaghetti Western and I think of what I know of Ty West, I really think the bit where they kill his dog happens 70 minutes into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 20 minutes is just bloodshed. Like, that feels like what I'd expect out of a Ty West movie. That could be interesting. This is splitting the difference in a way I find very unsatisfying.
Because it happens 45 minutes in. And then there's another 20 to 30 minutes of Hawke being like, I got to get back in that town. I got to get my revenge. And all the business with Thaisa Farmiga. I think it says a lot that we've hardly talked about Thaisa Farmiga in this movie.
Yeah.
Good actress, fine performance, boring character.
Yeah, there's not much to it. We haven't even uttered the words Karen Gillan yet.
Okay. I would like to take us on a sidebar.
Yes.
All right, cue the Karen Gillan sidebar music.
Cue the Karen Gillan hype theme. By God, that's Karen Gillan's music.
Is Karen Gillan the worst actor working today.
No. Jesus.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Is there a second in this movie where she delivers a line that doesn't sound like she's an animatronic on like a D-list Disneyland ride?
Oh, I think she's awful in this movie for sure.
Oh, no. She's atrocious in this movie. Like she is in every fucking movie she's in that's not somehow a Marvel movie.
Hey, you know what's funny? I'm probably the only person in the circle who's seen this. Did anyone watch The Call of the Wild?
No.
The Harrison Ford CGI dog movie from like 2 years ago.
The Call of the Wild.
I want to say really strong Ford performance. One of his better late stage performances. But Karen Gillan is playing the exact same role in that movie. She's only in it for one scene, but she's once again like the big dress, like girlfriend to the shitty villain of the movie, like constantly like heeing and hawing. And it's very strange that she just stuck with this archetype and did it again.
Like, I just want to run through this because, like, I do think she's good, quite good, actually, as Nebula.
Has anyone seen her in Doctor Who?
Yeah, she wasn't very good.
I disagree.
Amy Pond was a boring companion. I'm sorry.
I don't agree with that. But, one thing I will say is, like, it's a very unfortunate part about it, but the most interesting part about Amy Pond in Doctor Who is her boyfriend, which is the sad part about it. And I don't mean that as an insult on Amy Pond's character so much, as much as it is like just, or maybe I do mean as an insult against Amy Pond, but I don't mean that as an insult against Karen Gillan, because I think she did a great job at bringing that character out. But it's unfortunate that the most interesting part of that is her boyfriend, who becomes like the Roman soldier who lives for 1,000 years and then dies as like a angel stone thing.
But no, I agree. She's rather good in the Guardians movies.
She's very good in the Guardians movies, but then you've got like everything else she does. She's atrocious in Jumanji, a movie that's like already bad, but she's bringing.
But you mean the biggest movie in American history, Jumanji 2? Welcome to the jungle.
America's most beloved movie, Jumanji 2. She's complete dead weight in Jumanji. I have no memory of her being in Stuber. I'm just looking at her filmography. Apparently, she's in Stuber.
Wait, am I correct in that I have only seen Jumanji 2? I have not seen Jumanji 3.
I don't know. Are you?
Am I correct in that she, in Jumanji 3, is the one out of the 4 who does not have a different personality?
I believe that is the case.
Because the thing is that in the Jumanji, I can't believe it. Bet's a litigant. In Jumanji 2, like the main character becomes like, oh my god, Alex Wolff becomes The Rock, and oh my god, what are the actors' names? They all become the characters, and the girl becomes Jack Black, and then the other girl becomes Karen Gillan. I think that same girl just becomes Karen Gillan again.
Yeah,
I think
which is telling, because if the joke of Jumanji 2 is that all the 4 leads have to be given different performances now, Karen Gillan does not have that in her, because all she can do is deliver things in a flat monotone. She has never been interesting on screen. Did you see The Bubble?
I have not seen The Bubble yet. This is
one of the most embarrassing lead performances I've ever seen in my life. Gunpowder Milkshake, same way. Duel, same way. She is the least charismatic performer, I think, working today. She's so boring. She cannot convincingly deliver a single sentence in this movie, and literally all she's asked to do is scream and yell James Ranson's character's name.
Yeah, Gilly. She's like,
Gilly, and I never once buy it, and she's so grating every time she comes on screen. I would love for you guys to name a worse working actor.
But tell us how you really feel.
I just watched Duel, and then I watched this.
So you guys got the triple pounder of Karen Gillan.
Yeah. Duel, a movie in which she's supposed to be delivering every line like she's an emotionless robot, and she somehow can't pull that.
She gets really emotional in that one for some reason.
I mean, it's probably why she's good as Nebula. Because
I think she's actually great. She's one of the better performances in those movies.
That's the weird thing. We've talked about this, Jeff, but we agree. She's incredible. I mean, she maybe gives the best performance in the MCU.
She's up there.
What?
Her Zendaya?
Wow.
I mean, who gives the best performance in the MCU?
Because
It's a good question. It's more interesting than innovative.
it depends. Are we talking about collective or singular movie?
I think collective, which is why it's not Downey Jr.
Because if we're just talking best performance individual, it's Downey Jr. and Iron Man 1.
It's Downey Jr. and Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Iron Man 3 for Downey.
I cannot believe I am the one person in this room who did not pick Iron Man 3
But I
for
think
that one. That's
collectively, Downey sleepwalks in too many of those movies.
Mm-hmm. It's he's sleepwalking in Civil War,
Yep.
Infinity War,
Yep.
Homecoming. He kind of comes back for Endgame.
He really brings the heat in Endgame because he knows when he needs to.
Yeah. Because he's all exposition in Infinity War, but Endgame's the one where he's really bringing it again.
Mm-hmm.
But as a collective, I gotta think. Who are your choices?
As a collective?
Yeah, who gives...
I guess, like, define what do you mean by collective? Like, we're judging it as a whole?
Yeah, like, if
whole
you have to
MCU.
count
Look
all
at
their
the complete
performances in
body
the
of work.
movie. Is it maybe Hemsworth?
I think it's Evans
It's
or
Hemsworth
Gillen.
after Thor 2, meaning, like, Ragnarok and then onward. Because I don't even think he's good in the first Avengers. No, I think Hemsworth is...
Hemsworth peaks in Thor 1.
Nah, Ragnarok is where like we understand like the uses of Thor's character, but in every other movie, it's like we don't really know where to put Thor in the dialogue scheme of things, because it's like we already have Steve Rogers, who is a man out of his time and doesn't know shit.
We have the straight man, and we have the like comedic foil. And then Thor's just like, what if the straight man was even straighter?
I'm gonna say
No, he's what if the straight man was also the comedic foil?
In
That's what's funny. In Thor and in Avengers and in Thor 2, he's straddling that line. Taika Waititi doesn't get that.
Mm-hmm.
And Taika comes in and completely like ruins the vibe and makes him just the jokester.
Mm-hmm.
And the energy is gone. He's so much funnier in Thor and Avengers than he is in Ragnarok.
I disagree entirely, but
it's when they're
Ragnarok's terrible.
Here I am ready to say Mark Ruffalo as the best performance in the collective.
I know we can do more.
Well, maybe, but he's doing a pretty good job. I really like him in Endgame, even though he's CGI the entire time. I actually think he's really good.
After hearing Cole, I'm Evans. Evans collectively is always bringing it.
Evans is good.
Evans is the most committed. He's a very committed Captain America.
He takes it very seriously.
Yes.
Which is why I'm glad he got out before he stopped taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Because Downey has the dip. They all have dips in the career or in the amount that they care. Evans is just getting close to the point where you think he might start dipping when he gets out.
I think he dips a little in Infinity War.
He's barely in that movie, so you never notice.
Well, true. The biggest personality change for Chris Evans in Infinity War is the beard and the longer hair. And then everything else, it's very, I don't know.
Infinity War is so bad. It's just not a movie.
Infinity War is the most
Infinity War sucks.
I don't know about it sucks, but I definitely agree with you guys in the sense
sucks.
that it has the most sleepiest performances.
It's so inexplicable that Infinity War and Endgame were filmed at the same time because one of them is really
Infinity
good.
War looks like piss, is like 8 hours long, and expects me to give a shit about Star-Lord.
And the big thing for me is it's a whole movie and they're like, Thanos is the main character. And I'm like, cool. And then he gets killed off in the first scene of Endgame. And I'm like, okay, so why did I care about him in that whole movie? Okay, James Ransone.
Okay, James Ransone.
Okay, I'm bringing it back. Because once I said Karen Gillan, we all really got off. We all...
That's the end of the character.
I think she's a dreadful actress, and I think she's giving a atrocious performance in this movie.
She's not good.
I also heard the movie she directed sucked, but I didn't see it. So.
What was that movie?
I don't even remember. What was it called?
Because Unicorn Store was the Brie Larson one, right?
That's a movie that sucks. The Party's Just Beginning.
The Party's Just Beginning.
With her and Lee Pace.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, already I'm angry just because of the
Do you
title.
not like Lee Pace?
No, just the title of the movie.
Oh yeah, but to say.
I wish it had been good so they could have made a sequel to be The Party Just Ended.
It's kind of like
it's just The Hangover.
It's just like the Now You See Me atrocious titling that they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. The sequel wasn't Now You Don't.
I'm still mad.
It's infuriating.
I'm still mad.
Now You See Me. Now
like-
You Don't.
I'm America's biggest Now You See Me fan, and it breaks my heart.
I would have.
that Now You See Me too.
Now
wasn't
You
called
See Me
Don't.
2.
I would have even settled
No,
for.
it's not.
What
It's
is
Now You See Me, the final chapter.
the second one?
Yes.
It's just like
The final one.
I don't even think it had a 2 in the title.
Good God.
I would have even settled for it just being called Now You See Me, Now You Don't. The second one.
Yeah.
I would have even taken that. If you just put like the cult like apostrophe or whatever the fuck, comma, Now You Don't. It would have still like not been ideal, but I would have settled for it. Anyway, so James Ransone.
James Ransone.
He's probably, I think he's the best performance in it, Chapter 2, of the adult versions of the kids.
I mean, every single adult performer in that movie, Bill Hader included, sucked in Chapter 2. And I will not apologize. They all sucked.
James Ransone, very good.
James Ransone was okay.
Jessica Chastain, the correct
awful.
choice, doesn't really do much.
And James McAvoy, also the correct choice, seems to have wanted to self-sabotage the movie the moment he stepped foot inside his trailer at base camp. He got picked up by his driver.
Stuart, I have some bad news.
He went to base camp. He got in
I
his
have some
trailer and
bad
said,
news.
I'm going to deliver a shitty performance in It Chapter 2.
I have bad news.
What?
Me, the It Chapter 2 defender, has logged on.
All right. No, let me hear
It
it.
Chapter 2 is so funny. It is so ridiculous.
Okay, yes. Then, yeah, you're saying all these things that are negative qualities from my point of view, but are positive for yours. But
It Chapter 2...
can we agree it is a terrible sequel to Chapter 1?
No, it is the correct sequel to Chapter 1 because it's the only Stephen King adaptation to go for the fully coked out version with that level of budget. It uses $200 million to make pure bozo nonsense, where every scene is just a character vomiting on someone else and then yelling about their collective trauma.
All right, so James Ransone.
Yes, it's James Ransone. Cole, we had gotten up to the point where Hawke comes back in the plot, right? That's where you left off.
I think I just ran through the whole plot pretty quickly. But yeah, he comes back and he starts just gunning down all of James Ransone's guys. And like the first kill is pretty fun because Larry Fessenden gets his throat slit and bleeds like a stuck pig.
Yeah.
And for a brief second, I'm like lit up and excited because I think this movie is gonna, get some juice going for it.
And
then
I was just going to say that scene has all the characteristics of that slasher horror-esque moment that you were talking about. Dude in the bathtub, blindfolded, can't see anybody, shadowy figure emerges into the light, like had all the prefaces of a horror slasher moment right there.
And it's fitting that it's Fessenden because he is like the like mentor father Obi-Wan figure to this entire generation of micro budget digital horror guys that like, of course, the one bit where you're going full slasher, you're going to have Fessenden get killed. It's the same thing that Wingard does in the opening scene of Your Next, where Fessenden's the guy who gets brutally killed before the title card drops.
You just keep putting Fessenden in your movies getting murdered.
Yeah, no, everyone does it though, is the thing. All these guys, they all love Larry, as they should. For the context for our dear listeners, one of the goons is played by acclaimed filmmaker Larry Fessenden,
Yes.
who in the 1990s made a string of very interesting micro-budget horror films, often starring himself, and is often held up as like a forebearer for a lot of indie 2000s American horror directors. And he produces a lot of these guys' movies, and so he tends to pop up in small roles in a lot of these guys' movies.
Murdered.
Usually murdered, but he's also just such a fun character. He's got a great face. Like,
he has such a good look.
That's the other thing about this movie is you put Larry Fessenden and Toby Huss in the same movie, And like, I want to see Larry Fessenden and Toby Husk bounce off each other, but they don't get to because this movie's so bare bones.
I want to see them do anything.
I want to see anyone in this movie who's not Travolta do anything.
Yes. Because this entire, like, Travolta almost becomes the lead of the movie for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
When it commits to the slasher bit and like Hawke slits Fessenden's throat and then he disappears at the front. We don't see him again for like a few minutes. And Travolta kind of takes over and he's like, I said you boys shouldn't have gone after him, but here's how we're gonna set up. You're gonna get on the roof with a gun. You're gonna go lock up the guns in the prison, and it just kind of becomes the Travolta show of him bracing the town for this violence that's about to occur against his better like wishes. And there's a lot of like fun to that segment, and he's like, but he has the three guys, Ransone, Huss, and I forget who the third dude is.
The other guy is not a guy. Like, I mean, he's the other guy whose name I'm blanking on. Good actor, gives a good performance in this movie. Is not like a character actor. His name have any affection.
The
for.
Character's name is Tubby.
Yeah,
because he's fat. And there's a whole scene where he rambles about how he doesn't want to be called Tubby anymore, which like kind of would have been a funny bit had the movie done, the legwork.
Everything in this movie, like, feels like it's the rough draft of a good movie.
Yes.
Which is what's frustrating about this. And I feel like we're just hitting the same point over and over again.
It feels like they got through draft one. They're like, all right, we can shoot this.
Like, Travolta's death is conceptually very interesting.
Yes.
Which is Hawke and Ranson are like in stock high noon. We're dueling at the opposite end of Main Street position, and Travolta's in the middle trying to talk them both down.
Yeah.
And then they end up draw and they both accidentally shoot him.
Yes, and Travolta dies there.
There is an interesting version of this death where it's like the ineffectual lawman
can't even
between
get between
the two
this.
More mythic figures. And in practice, it's these two dudes just deciding to unload on Travolta.
Yes,
and it almost becomes a weird comedic scene.
Yeah.
But you're sitting there and I'm like, both these guys are ostensibly aiming for someone else, but Travolta's just getting riddled with gunfire like he's fucking Tony Montana at the end of Scarface for the joke and the gore effects of seeing him explode with squibs.
Yeah, it's exactly because like they load all 6 clips, each of them, or all 6 bullets.
Yeah.
And Travolta's just somehow getting like he's flailing around and they're missing each other.
And just hitting
Which
him.
Again, if that's the joke, then your movie has to be this like pitch black dark comedy where people throughout are dying in like funny ways.
Yeah.
But that's not the movie you're making, so it just happens and it just doesn't have any effect. And he's the most interesting character in the movie, so I'm weirdly like,
all right, now
what is this all for?
I want to reel us back a little bit because there's one thing I want to talk about that
Please.
I forgot to bring up. So when we were talking about like what is this town, because this is a non-existent town, it's like just 4 square blocks. There's one when Hawke leaves before they kill his dog. He rides that town. He's like, I'm never coming back, and like this montage occurs of him like traversing landscapes.
Yes.
And like the sun is shown doing almost a full cycle. He's at night. He's climbing up the hill with his dog and his horse. The next morning after his dog is ill, he wakes up and he looks over the cliff. And the town is like maybe a mile and a half away after this extensive montage.
And also, speaking of the weird geography, when he returns to town, he is taken in by Thaisa Farmiga, who is the innkeeper, but also has a second house.
Yes, with a
vaguely on the outskirts of town where she can take care of him for honestly just because narratively it wouldn't make any sense
for him to be back
for
in town.
him to be in the center of town at this point. But also narratively, this movie has kind of written itself into a corner where there's too few characters for it to make sense, because she has to be in the center of the town because
And the way they write around it is she's like, yeah, this is the house where I take care of my paw. And like there's just a dying guy on a slab.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so she takes care of her dying father here. But most of this movie, we've seen her and her sister in town together. So do they just leave this guy here on this slab?
Which again, like there is like, I want to get into the Thais of it all because there's an interesting thing with, is it Mary Sue her name?
Marianne.
Marianne, yes.
They didn't
Marianne
go quite too literal with Mary Sue.
Yeah. Oh God, I didn't even think about that. But Mary Sue and Ellen, Taissa Farmiga and Karen Gillan, who do look like sisters, credit to this movie. I buy them being sisters. Run the local inn that has no clients because this is a ghost town. And also Karen Gillan doesn't seem to do anything but fawn over James Ransom all day. So there's this interesting thing, undercurrent of Taissa Farmiga's character where she's kind of abandoned by her sister. She's got this dying father on the outskirts of town. She's married, but her husband abandoned her some time ago. And also she's only 16, which I get, different time period. And she's kind of just then at the beck and call of all like the gross men in the town. That's an interesting idea that this child is basically forced to be, you know, a woman and a mother figure and a figure of desire because of how abandoned the town is. It's an interesting idea.
Yes.
It's not one that the movie does anything to.
We've basically workshopped the good version of this movie.
Yeah, it would, and if you really dig into that, if you make her the character, if you really like delve into how she's just like an object, then maybe it's interesting when she, spoiler alert, grabs a gun and kills James Ransom at the end of the movie. But again, you're just like, well, what's this character? Why do I care that she's married? Mm. Is it supposed to be a juxtaposition of Ethan Hawke saying in one line that he abandoned his wife and kids back in the day? Like, are they both wayward souls? I think we're putting more thought into this than Ty West did. I'm sorry. I love Ty West.
You know
this ain't it.
You know what the most interesting choice made in this movie is? It's the one flashback that Hawke has to his
flashback rules.
It's where he's flashing back to his like time in the cavalry, taking out the like where they were killing like Native American tribes, and it's all done with like it's like it's literally a flashback where like it would just. I
mean, I'll tell you what it is. It's edited like the satanic ritual at the end of House of the Devil,
because it breaks like the world in that it's a very obvious flashlight on Ethan Hawke with like it's a camcorder and it's like Hawke and Civil or like Union blues kind of going through a thing. You're just like flashing on and off with him, clearly a flashlight camcorder, and in the background
it has the editing rhythms of House of the Devil, and it looks like a found footage film.
Yes,
and all of a sudden this movie has juice. And if this is supposed to be the nexus point where you switch from Western into horror, that's a nice transition.
It's a nice transition, and it's a nice establishment of Hawke's character. Like, oh, you're establishing, okay, he's dealing with the guilt of having killed, driven people from their homes for like the greater good of a country that doesn't care about him, which seems to be like the impetus for his character running away to Mexico.
Yeah, there's this running theory that like he may have committed war crimes against Native American people, but it's also kind of unclear if he did or if he just witnessed them. Like,
they never really dive into it.
Yeah,
we love a casual war crime.
It's just like it's a first draft. This is a very first draft movie shot for like $10.
Because the ending is just Burn Gorman shows up to town. Finally.
What do you even want from me? I'm sorry, movie. What do you want from me if Burn Gorman's coming back?
You know your movie's running low when Burn Gorman comes back to town. The Dark Knight Rises makes the smart move to get Burn Gorman out of there the second Bane takes over. Death or exile. This movie chose death. Burngorn comes back and he's like, "Shucks, the town's sinners." And Hawke's like, "Yeah, try preaching to them." And then he goes into the tavern with Thaisa while Karen Gillan screams in the background about Ransone being dead. And the movie ends. And that's
in a valley of violence.
That's in a valley of violence.
Not even that violent. Sorry.
It's not even, the valley is like a little violent at best. It's not that bad.
The valley is like could probably get a PG-13 if they wanted it to.
This could have gotten a PG-13, and like if you're gonna build up the whole bit of this movie that it's about a valley of violence, you can't just have a gunfight occur at the very end.
Again, like, this is Ty West.
This should have gone.
I know this guy can give me like a fucking cavalcade of gore.
Like this
if he wants to.
This place should have felt like Tortuga. Like there's just been pure chaos occurring in this town. If you want to, do anything with it. But I think that's the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
I think we summed it up. I don't know how much more there is to say about it.
It's a weirdly long movie too.
It's 99 minutes, which is
too long for a movie this minimalist.
And like I still kind of enjoy this movie, just pure like pulp. And the more I talk about it, the less I like it.
Yeah.
I
walked into this recording hoping, because I saw your letterbox, Jeff.
Yeah.
I was hoping you guys would talk me into liking this more.
And you talked me out of liking this more.
I'm sorry.
No. Because coming out of it yesterday, I was like, I kind of like that it's just like pure like it's not a good movie, but the whole thing is just it's Pulp Fiction. It's like a dime store novel, 100 pages. Guy comes in town, kills a bunch of jamokes, and gets out. And that's where the level where I enjoyed it at, and maybe it was that I watched it right after watching I Am Wrath yesterday, which is just abysmal. I mean, it's abysmal, but it's my kind of movie, as we will talk about in the I Am Wrath episode that we definitely haven't recorded already. But,
yeah, I guess.
Well, speaking of I Am Wrath, I promise I'll be on a good movie next time.
You will be on the best movie next time.
I guess for final thoughts for me is the biggest takeaway I think was getting that context information, knowing Ty West and Blumhouse, and sort of how this movie could have easily have taken a different turn of being like a quasi Western horror mix. And I see a version of that in this, which we've talked about, and I see glimpses into that. But I think ultimately I agree with what you guys are saying, how it does feel like the first draft that just got approved right away and then shipped into production, shot for, 20 days at best.
Mm.
And then...
This was shot in 25 days.
Oh, so I wasn't that far off.
I mean, I think the other problem with this being that idealized horror Western is that this probably shoots right around the time Bone Tomahawk is coming out. And Bone Tomahawk is really what kind of structurally what you'd want out of a Ty West Western.
Bone Tomahawk is almost a good version of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, they're very different, but in terms of this, do you sit in a character piece, watch the dynamics of the town, then erupt into gore? That's Bone Tomahawk. Obviously, Bone Tomahawk is far more stylized and strange.
Yes.
Than this is ever aspiring to be. And racist.
Yeah, Bone Tomahawk.
I love Bone Tomahawk, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Zoller, little problematic of a guy.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we do the Zoller cast.
No, I will never. I will never. I will absolutely never. And I will do the Gibson cast. Before.
Do you want to do a Gibson cast, Jeff?
The Apocalypto episode going to be insane.
That's how we fully cancel ourselves.
Yeah, get fully canceled doing the Gibson cast. No, we're going to be fully canceled in 2 weeks.
What's in 2 weeks?
We're gonna dump a 6-hour episode on our feed, and
Oh, of course.
and that's what everyone's.
I'm never fucking watching that movie, guys. By the way, I'm sorry.
I made it. We'll talk off mic really quickly, but I made a specific deal with Cole.
Listeners, I want to be very clear. I am never fucking watching Gotti.
I unfortunately do not have a choice, Cole.
You folks, Stuart's gonna watch Gotti like 3 times. It's gonna be.
I'm gonna watch it once, and I will pay.
I already have 2 screenings lined up.
I will pay half attention.
No, you will pay full attention because we got a lot of context to discuss.
Okay.
But we'll talk about Gotti in 2 weeks when we
will.
talk about Gotti.
Yeah, Cole. As always, thanks so much.
Hey,
thank you guys. It was a blast. I'm sorry it couldn't go 3 hours this time.
Yeah,
No, it's all good.
it'll come. It'll come during the next one, I'm sure. Well,
shockingly, this movie does not inspire a whole lot
deep discussion.
of deep discussion.
Yeah.
I do want to quickly say, so this is predominantly a it is okay. So it's predominantly a video on demand release. As a lot of movies in Travolta's career at this time are. It does have a small box office run, makes 61,000. Yikes! But it's a fly on the wall for Blumhouse. Let's be honest. And it comes out doesn't do much. Stuart has hastily run for a 10-1 break. He has sprinted, and he has the ability to cut off this recording. I do not.
I mean, yeah, Stuart's gone. What do we want to talk about?
All right, so there's something we do have to litigate.
Mel Gibson being a good actor.
No, what did you have for lunch today?
I had a Philly cheesesteak.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
You did not.
That's what it said on the menu.
Okay, so what it says in the menu is a very bold. I could write, hot dog on a menu and give you a hamburger.
That'd be weird.
It would be strange. It
wouldn't be a hot
just
dog.
as it would be strange to write Philly cheesesteak on a menu.
What's in a Philly cheesesteak?
A Philly cheesesteak is finely chopped steak.
Yep.
In a hoagie roll.
I had it on a roll, but not a hoagie. But that was my own choice. But I could have gotten on a hoagie if I wanted to.
It's no longer a Philly cheesesteak once you take the hoagie roll out.
Set it on the menu.
Once you take the hoagie out, it's the hoagie.
So if I'd gotten it on a hoagie, we agree it would have been a Philly cheesesteak.
What else are you having on it?
The onions.
All right, it's still
Peppers.
Philly cheesesteak. It's still Philly cheesesteak.
American cheese.
Yeah, still Philly
Tomato.
cheesesteak. All right, we're getting a little questionable.
Lettuce.
Nah, now it's no longer a Philly cheesesteak.
Mayonnaise?
It's no longer a cheesesteak.
It's a Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheese. Okay.
There's cheese.
Dear
and
listeners, if you are for some reason still tuning in at this point for this discussion, Cole and I have been in a multi-month feud about this because I am from Philadelphia and I have very strong.
I'm sorry.
Rocky's coming to your house right now.
So you didn't see my tweet earlier today, so we're fine.
I did see your tweet earlier today, and we're going to talk about that another day when we get to the zone, because that is some egregious shit right there. You did that just to rile me up. Okay, so I'm from Philadelphia, and I have very strong opinions about Philly cheesesteaks.
A dumb thing to have strong feelings about.
It's the only thing I can be proud of from my hometown.
That's a sad thing to be proud of.
That, the Liberty Bell, and the Phillies winning the World Series once, and then the time we threw snowballs and beer cans at Santa Claus.
Meat and cheese on bread is not some regional thing that people get to claim.
I agree in a larger concept, but the specific version of it is the thing that we get to claim.
It's barely a thing.
It's like a Chicago dog is a specific thing.
Oh yeah, that's real.
Okay, no, we're not picking and choosing here. If a Chicago dog can be a thing when a hot dog is a larger existence, there can be a specific subsection of steak sandwiches in which Philly cheesesteak is its own thing. What you had was a steak sandwich.
Yeah, but I can make but I could have had a Philly cheesesteak if I was here then.
Yes, you could have a Philly cheesesteak.
Acknowledge.
You can have a Philly cheesesteak in other places, but it has to be made in a specific way.
All right, I'll allow it.
What you had was a steak sandwich.
It was good. It's better than a Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, okay. All right. Stuart's got to come back so we can cut this shit off. Because
all right, listeners, listeners, this is basically my argument. If you walked into a Subway, the famous sandwich chain beloved by pedophiles everywhere.
Yes.
If you walked into a Subway and you wanted a Philly cheesesteak,
Stuart's returning. He has no idea what we're talking about.
And an Italian beef, you could theoretically engineer all three of those sandwiches.
All right.
But the sandwich artist would just charge you for three of the same sandwich. Because regardless of small differences, those are all the same sandwich.
All right. Well, thank you for our listeners for listening. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Catch us on our Reddit, r/Travolting.
Philly cheesesteak.
Follow us on our Instagram,
specifically
at
finely
Travolting
cut
Pod.
Steak.
You can follow Jeff on
normally
Instagram
with
or Twitter,
provolone
Jeff
or
W.
cheese
Sweeney.
whiz. You would order
follow
like
Instagram,
with or without.
Stuart over 95.
Onions or
Special
peppers, like
thanks
they're
to
optional.
Michael
I don't
Van
go for them,
Bodegib,
but they're fine.
our music
If
composer
onions
for
and
the theme
peppers are
music.
optional, then we can agree that tomatoes are optional.
Rebecca Johnson for our graphic
there's
design.
a very fine line.
There's
And
not.
also
They're
special
all the
thanks
same.
for
They're all
Stuart
sandwich
for
toppings.
trying to wrap this up.
It's like
have a great rest of your
if
week,
you
folks. Join us next week for
So you can join us next week for more discussion about Philly cheesesteaks.
Okay. So have a great
Stuart, what
week,
episode's next
everybody.
week? Just say it.
I don't know what episode.
We just recorded it.
I am Wrath.
Yes.
Join us next week for
that's going to be me. I'm going to be full of wrath when we
Wrath.
talk about this.
So, thank you. And thank you to Cole. Special thanks to Cole. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.